On this episode of Dollars and Cents, we're going to walk you through every step of the construction, home building, and lending process. Let's get into it. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Dollars and Cents, HAPO Community Credit Union's financial literacy podcast. Today in the studio, we are going to be talking about kind of a unique lending monster, as Rob, our production manager for our mortgage team, brought up to me when we were chatting not too long ago. It's custom home construction and the lending that goes along with custom construction. With us today, we have Jaime, who is our construction specialist. I mentioned Rob, as well as Jordan, who is the owner of 47 North Custom Homes. My plan today, kind of like I talked about with you guys earlier, is to take the listeners through start to finish the process of deciding that you want to do a custom built home as opposed to picking something off the market through just a standard real estate agent, getting that loan and going through the building process. Everybody, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Right on. So, for everybody, I'm just going to open this one up. What is the appropriate place to start? I know in mortgage conversations we've had previously, it's typically a good idea to start with pre-approval. But in this particular case, am I looking for a lot? Am I looking for a blueprint? Am I looking for a number? What is the preferred, or maybe just some of the options that people have as far as where to get started?
I would say ideally, I mean, in our world, either you have the floor plan either dialed in or the lot dialed in, because those are very dictated upon each other.
Okay.
Right? We can't build like a Rambler basement on a flat lot or something like that.
That tracks.
So typically we like to find the lot and then pair your dream house with it and then figure out, obviously, if your budget's going to work.
Okay. So in that case, we're starting from what we want and then coming off and seeing if we can afford what we want, and then maybe having to rework that plan based on that after the fact.
Yeah, I like to get together with you first, get all your dreams, everything, all your wants, put it together and say, okay, here's what we think you're going to be. Where's your budget at? Does it all work out as the first step, first meeting?
Okay. How many of the clients that you guys have come in with a really solid idea of what they want just right out of the gate? They sit down, they've got a list of, I want a walk behind bar, I need a pool and a bathroom with 17 heads in the shower and absolutely no dining room, versus people that come in and just like, show me some ideas because I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, I would say about half and half. So most of the clients, I mean, with the internet now, it's so easy. You look at pictures all day long, Pinterest, Instagram, all that. So they have a pretty good idea of what they want in a house, in a custom house. And so typically if they're building a custom home, they know exactly what they want. That's why they're coming to us to build it custom, versus the other half is like, I don't really know what we want. So we have our own spec houses that we build.
Okay.
They kind of walk through it and say, yes, now that I've seen it, this is what I want.
And on those spec houses for, say, custom, I'm guessing that they're not stuck with exactly what's there, that you guys can take that as a starting point and make some modifications to it.
Yeah, a lot of times. So we'll build a spec house, build it all the way up, complete it, and then we'll have open houses. They walk through, they can either A, buy that house, or say, wow, we love your style. We love the way you did this, this, and this, but we need to have an extra bathroom, an extra bedroom, RV bay, something. So we take that plan and then build off of it.
Okay. So let's go the opposite direction. This is starting from somebody who knows the type of building that they want. Now they're going to show up and talk to a mortgage officer and decide whether or not they can afford that, as opposed to, say, starting from pre-approval. Let's see what they can afford, and let's then cram our hopes and dreams into that budget. Rob, talk to us about what that process would look like for somebody who's coming in to your office to talk about the fact that they want to do this, but they want to start with maybe figuring out just how much they can afford.
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to, for us, it's a matter of, do they own the lot that they want to build on, or are they looking to purchase the lot with the custom construction loan? So it's a difference of process. And if they own the lot already, they already have some equity possibly
Okay.
in the deal to where their cash outlay is less than if, hey, I just want to buy this lot and build a house all in one. That would be a different sort of process for our standpoint of what they would qualify for. It's easier if they own the lot already. They've owned it for a while. They've got some equity built up into it. Maybe they don't have to come in with as much money than on the construction loan than somebody that needs to purchase it all at once.
I was going to say, if for nothing else, that because you're not having to pay for the land as well, that's going to change that total cost overall, meaning that you can then put more of that money into the actual construction side.
Correct. Yeah. So if they've owned the lot for at least a year, we'll allow them to, if the value of that lot's gone up in value a little bit, we'll allow them to use some of that appreciation in the lot to go towards the total outlay. So we'll do our custom construction loans with, depending on credit score and stuff like that, anywhere from 20% down as low as 10% down, depending on the project itself. And so if they've already got some of that built into the equity of the property, then they don't need to have as much money in the bank. But a lot of people that we find that are looking for custom construction, hey, I already own a house. We're going to build this house. We want to time it out to where when this house is finished, we're going to sell this house.
Okay.
We're going to roll the equity in that into the new place. And so we can structure it depending on what they have and what their situation is. It's always a little different on how we structure it, but those are the things we look at is, what's your down payment outlay? Where's that coming from? And then the other piece is then the income that we need to have to be able to qualify for the loan after completion.
Now, it sounds from previous conversations that we've had like there's a lot more moving parts in this decision making than in, say, a standard mortgage or refinance.
Yeah, because it's not only are we approving you as a buyer for this property, but we also have to approve the project itself. And so that's where Jaime's team comes in and they look at the overall project. And so my team looks at, is this a loan that we can do on the end where when that house is finished, because our custom construction loans, we loan you the money to build the house. And then once the house is completed, then it converts into a mortgage automatically.
Okay.
As opposed to some other places, so ours is called a one step. So it's all one process. Some people do a two-step, whereas it's a construction loan, and then when the house is finished, then it's a refinance. We're refinancing into the end loan. Ours is all just one process, which makes it really nice and makes it a lot less expensive for the consumer as well, because we're not charging closing costs on two separate transactions.
That was going to be my next question on that two-step is because it is 100% another, I shouldn't say 100%, because it is a refinance, that's a whole another loan process.
Yeah, and having to requalify too. And so for us doing a one step, it's better for the builder too, because we're not having to requalify that buyer, 9, 12, 18 months down the road. Now the house is finished. We're going to convert it into a mortgage. We have to requalify them to make sure that they now qualify. Maybe they changed jobs, their credit took a hit, something like that. And now, the builders built this house for these people, and now we're like, well, we're not really sure if we can actually finish the deal up. And so the fact that we're able to do it all at once at the very beginning gives the builder and the member a lot of peace of mind to where, okay, nothing, now we just need to focus on getting the house built, and we don't need to focus on requalifying for the loan down the road.
Okay. Jaime, he kind of threw you under the bus here. You come in and now you're the one that's going to determine if my dream home is good enough.
Right.
And by that, I'm assuming we're not talking about whether or not I have an appropriately sized dog shower in my mudroom, but something different. Tell us a little bit about what your process is.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, so I come in, mainly I'm looking at, house plans, the cost to build, the contract, and really taking a look at those that, hey, okay, the cost, we've got sales tax in there. Do you have a contingency? So, if you have any cost overruns, if you change your mind during the project, do you have any extra funds that, would be available? Do the costs seem appropriate, for price per square foot of what you're trying to build? The contract, is it a fixed price contract or is it a cost plus? Normally, we only do the fixed price contracts. Different things that I'm looking at, but just making sure that everything seems legitimate, that, you can build this house for X dollar amount. The other thing that I take a look at is, okay, is this builder approved? We kind of hit on that really quickly, but we do have a set of builders that we already have approved. We've worked with them in the past. If it's not on our kind of approved list, then we would need to qualify that builder to build the house. And especially being able to take a look at that sooner than later, and making sure that we can qualify that builder. And there is a package. I mean, there's a lot of information that we do require up front from that builder, everything from a resume to tax returns, financial statements. We do a lot of due diligence on our side, making sure that, we're going to be working with a builder that is reputable, that's going to be paying his subs and suppliers, and will build this house, for X dollar amount. So there is quite a bit of work. We pull credit scores, we're looking at contractor licenses. Do they have insurance? There's a lot of stuff to it. Calling on past client references, subs and suppliers, making sure there's not a delinquency or, record of past due payments. Once we get the builder approved though and qualified, then it's a easy process from there on out.
Okay. So
yeah.
Verifying that the people that everybody's working with are going to come through with what they're saying they can do. Yeah. Because again, this is not a turnaround. We're not just out picking up a house that's in a neighborhood through a real estate agent. We're starting from either a bare lot or maybe something that's been started. But making sure that, hey, yeah, we're going to get a bunch of money for this thing that doesn't exist yet. We want to make sure that it's going to be there, and also to make sure that the cost and the materials going into it justify what we're getting and what we're loaning out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and some of the big things that we look at with those builders is, how long have they been in business? Somebody that just started their company and has only been in business for 1 year, not a lot of financial history, not a lot of performance, with building. That's tougher. I mean, it's going to be scrutinized a lot closer. So, I mean, those are big things that we look at when we're taking a look at these builders. We want to feel confident. I mean, these loans are riskier in nature just because we're lending on an unfinished product. Mm-hmm. So when we disperse funds to those builders every month, we want to feel confident that they're going to use those funds to pay their subs and suppliers for this job and project, and protect HAPO's money, protect our clients' money,
Yeah. It's not like a car loan where you have that immediate collateral that's there where, hey, if they aren't making their payments, you just go take the car back and you've got that equity that's in there. Okay. So we've talked about, looking at a lot, coming up with a plan, going through that whole thing. It sounds like, again, there's a lot of almost story to these loans as far as who it is that's requesting it, and what it is that they're getting built. So again, custom seems like that is the optimal word here, on the lending side as well as on the construction side. So where are we in this process? I've come up with an idea. I want to build a custom home, had a conversation, got my builder verified, approved, talked with Jordan about our floor plan, the things that we really want, things that we don't want. And like you mentioned, maybe found a lot or a floor plan. Now we're looking at marrying those two things up with the other one that makes sense. Walk me through where we are at this point in the process, from you as the builder, now that we've got all of this in place.
Yeah, so then, like I said, we have the plan, finalize the plan, figure out all the wants, needs, all that stuff, and then we start building the budget, cost breakdown, all that, figure out selections, what kind of windows we want, what kind of finishes we're going inside, cabinet package, are we spending $80,000, are we spending $20,000, kind of build the budget from there, figure out what the design is going to look like, and then start putting final plans, prints, plot plan, all that, then get into permitting, get the permitting figured out, all the energy credits now in Washington make it difficult. All that stuff adds cost to the home. So go through all that. And then once we get permitting, then we start breaking ground.
Okay.
Process.
So in here, where in this process is the loan coming in? Because we're talking now about making sure that our packages, countertops, cabinets, et cetera, are we working inside of our loan budget at that point, or is all of this going into our loan package to be approved?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, it really depends on each loan, but a lot of the times it seems like a lot of the clients, it's kind of simultaneous. They're having meetings and conversations with the builder. They're continuing to build that budget, their details with what they want in the house, but they're also having the conversations with HAPO and sitting down with us, getting us, financial information and whatnot, and getting that pre-approval also in place just to make sure that, yes, okay, we're kind of going on this road, $1 million budget here to build this house. Can we really qualify for an $800,000 loan? Or, you know, it's kind of simultaneous. I mean, it just kind of depends, I guess, with each client. But.
Yeah, a lot of times we'll have just okay, you know, this is kind of this is our ceiling of what we can spend. And a lot of times, ideally, that ceiling is more than they want to spend.
Mm-hmm.
So like, hey, you guys are good to go for, say, 1.3 million. And they're like, okay, awesome. Because we're thinking we want to stay, you know, payment wise, we want to stay closer to a $1 million build. That's a great position to be in, because then it's just a matter of now they're just fine tuning the details. And we really encourage them to get as much of that dialed in at the beginning before we fund that loan. So then there's not a lot of changes afterwards to where now there's some cost overrides that we're having to account for, and we're changing those numbers. Like, we really like it to be dialed in as dialed in as possible. I think stuff's going to come up through the process. You know, we've all seen those home improvement shows and those building shows to where it's like, oh, we just found out there's, you know, whatever, there's a natural spring under this lot, and now there's, you know, remediation, all that stuff. Those things are going to come up, but it's avoiding all of, you know, we've been doing this long enough to where we kind of know where those pain points are and where, like, most people overrun on costs, and just kind of work together as a team to make sure that we get all that stuff dialed in as much as possible within that budget we've created.
And that scenario that you threw out, that's a 30% addition over the top of what they're planning, which you had mentioned in kind of that pre-approval process, is how much excess, how much extra could you qualify for. As we're going back and forth in this, we're working out the details of what we want. We're hammering this out. You're getting ready to break ground, but I'm guessing you're not putting a shovel into dirt until I'm handing you some money.
Correct. Yeah. So usually like I said, we dial in the plans with Pinterest, all that. We kind of know what finishes they want. You know, if they show us a picture that's got marble everywhere, $80,000 cabinets, all that, we know we're not going to give them a budget of $5,000 for cabinets, right? So we can kind of build that together. And then, yeah, once we get everything finalized, the budget, all that, then we take a deposit, start construction, permitting, all that stuff.
Okay. So I'm looking at this loan. Are you, Rob, Jaime, handing me $1 million that I'm just going to turn over and hand straight over to Jordan? Are we doing this where I'm going to get that, I'm going to throw it in my bank account and let it sit there and accumulate some interest and then pay you as we go? Or how is this loan itself behaving for me as a member who's taken that out and then being able to pay for the actual construction?
Yeah, that's a good question. So no, you will not be getting the full amount of the loan.
Darn it.
That's where I kind of come in. So once that construction loan gets put into place and booked, then I manage the draws and the disbursements on that loan during the construction phase. And so each month the builder will submit to me a draw request. And so, you know, he's letting me know what line items and those amounts that he's requesting. And then we, you know, HAPO behind the scenes is ordering inspections. And the inspections, it's not the inspector from the city or the county going to make sure that things are done to code. This is more just pictures and progress of the house and where it's at.
Making sure that those items that are drawn for are actually purchased. Like we didn't just pay $80,000 for cabinets and go take a look and realize that there's no cabinets anywhere on property.
Exactly. If Jordan's requesting, you know, 100% of the windows line item, you know, we want to make sure that that inspection shows that windows are 100% installed and done. If there's any discrepancies, I mean, cabinets, sometimes, you know, there's large deposits that sometimes need to be made to order cabinets. You know, we'll work with the clients and the builders on that piece, but for the majority of items, we want it finished before we release funds for those items. So once the inspection comes back, as long as it looks okay, the other thing that we order is a date down endorsement every month with those draws. And it's basically from the title company. It's an update on the property, letting us know if anything has been recorded against the property. So specifically, we're looking for mechanics liens. You know, are those subs and suppliers getting paid for the work on this project and they're not filing a mechanics lien? As long as that looks okay, then we will disperse that draw to the builder. It goes directly to the builder, and then the builder can pay his subs and suppliers from there. So it's incremental each month, you know, based on whatever's done on that house. That's what we're advancing for each month until that house is completely done and finished.
So for me as the member and the client, I'm kind of hands off in the accounting side of things here.
Yeah. Each month on the custom construction loans, normally you'll get an email from me every month, and I still want the clients to look at the draw request and be a part of it and make sure that they don't have any issues with it. But it's really a quick email from me. This is the draw request. Take a quick look at it. Make sure you don't have any questions or concerns. An email back from them, and then that's all they have to do.
Okay.
I mean, really throughout this process, the clients, I want them focusing on, picking their items and focusing on, building the house with the builder. I handle the other piece of it.
Yeah, and it's good that we involve the member in that process too, because what a lot of times we get so excited about building the house that we forget about the fact that, well, as we're drawing these funds, there's some payments that are due with those funds. And so, they need to be able to keep track of, okay, now we're, $200,000-$300,000 into this deal. They have to make interest payments on that money as they're using it. And so that way there's no surprises of how come my bill is going up every month. It's because we're using your money and that you are paying the interest on that during the construction period.
I was going to say that was going to be my immediate next comment was going to be, because we're not pulling everything, we only are being charged loan payments on what has been pulled. So over the course of this project, it's going to become more and more expensive from a monthly standpoint on my side as the member, as the client. But that's to be expected as we're in the process of this. In fact, I should probably be reveling in the fact that I haven't been paying $1 million loan interest the entire time. Okay, so we're at this point. You're getting monthly payments as we're working up on this construction project. Walk me through where we are at this point from the construction side.
You mean like once we break ground, or?
Yeah, we're doing work. We're bringing in subcontractors. I'm assuming we're picking out cabinets. We're changing our mind because my wife is very picky, and this month decided that last Pinterest board wasn't the one that we really wanted. So walk me through how we deal with some of those things.
So yeah, change orders are always fun, right? But it's part of a construction home, right? The house has never been built before. It's our dream house. We want to do it once. We want to do it right? So yeah, it's always changing. We have, like I said, we have a budget in mind in the front end. We don't order everything right at the get-go. We like to have all our selections made before we start, but we don't necessarily order everything just because as you see the house, coming from a blueprint to actually walking in, seeing physical walls, daylight, all that, things might change. So once we get through it, once we get started, if they do change their mind, hey, we don't want these cabinets, we want these cabinets, and it's going to be a little bit more money, then we go to the line item. Hey, you have an allowance of $60,000. You're going to spend $80,000. So we just do a change order for $20,000.
Either A, find $20,000 more dollars, or B, find $20,000 in the budget to cut somewhere else.
Yeah, we can take it from another line item if that's what you want to do. If your flooring item came in less, you can use it from that. Or usually we have some sort of contingency fund in the loan, and so we can draw from that or add it to the back end. Or if we have cash, just pay cash at the time. Don't add it to the loan. The loan stays the same, pay it outside of the loan.
I was going to say a lot of planning ahead. I feel like there's a quote about plans that goes in with this. That a plan is just a list of things that don't happen anyways. Make the plan, follow the plan, let the plan fall apart, throw out the plan, make a new plan. But basically being flexible and being able to be agile in the conversation. Because I feel like part of the other thing that we're looking at, these construction projects last roughly how long?
So our build time is typically, depending on the size of the house, a build time from permits pulled to moving in is 6 to 10 months.
Okay. And I'm guessing in 6 to 10 months, we're going to see some price fluctuations in some of the things that we were potentially looking at. Maybe our $60,000 cabinets are suddenly $65,000 because of a small price bump or something along those lines. So there's got to be at least a little bit of flexibility, especially with that type of a timeline that we're working on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we try to dial in most of our pricing. We try to dial in, year to year. Every January 1st, we get the inevitable letter. Hey, prices are going up 5% this year, stuff like that. So once we lock in the customer, aside from allowances and things like that changes, we don't change the price. Right. The foundation. Okay. We bid it for this price. We're going to honor that. Framing, all that stuff.
Okay. So we're not too worried about the fluctuations in market prices on things because you're going to get that in next year when those change. You're going to make your adjustments as you get those notifications.
Yeah. Obviously during COVID, a lot of people got burned on that because we bid lumber at this price and all of a sudden it was 20 times that. So we learned along the way, and now, we stabilized prices. They've come down, or not come down, but they've stabilized. And so now we know, relatively it's going to be within this 5 to 10% range.
Yeah. So given another global pandemic catastrophe situation, you're pretty confident in your side that you're going to be able to handle and stick with those numbers that you're working with the client on.
Correct.
All right. So as we're going through, we've got our construction. We're in the midst of ours. We're getting payments out. I'm spending more and more money on interest payments as we get closer and closer to dream home. As we're closing in on the end of our construction project, is anything special happening at that point in time? Construction-wise, loan-wise, or is it just when we're finally done and ready to close this that we get our one-step shift that happens?
Yeah, I mean, there's not really anything special from my side. I mean, there's definitely some things that I need, certificate of occupancy. Once the house is completely done, that's something that we require on our side before releasing that final draw to the builder. Every once in a while on a project, we have something weird, like, if the house gets done in the wintertime and maybe some of the landscaping can't be done at that time, every once in a while we'll need to do something where, we advance for maybe the landscaping funds, but we hold them in an account that nobody can touch until we can release those and the landscaping can be done in the spring. So, I mean, there's some things that, just the communication, just having those conversations between us and the builder and the clients so that we're all on the same page. But really, that's kind of the only thing, on our side that, just wanting to make sure that we're in the loop from the lending standpoint as to if there's anything kind of funky as we're getting close to the end that, maybe isn't done yet, that needs to be done, that we can plan for that.
Okay. From the construction side, as we're finalizing, finishing touches, what do we do for closing out our project with you?
So yeah, once we get near the end, obviously everyone gets more excited, more site visits, more questions, all that stuff. But typically, once we get the house to about 95%, we'll do a final blue tape walkthrough / orientation where us, the customer, realtors, if they're involved, we'll meet at the house, we'll walk through the project, kind of tell them about the new house, how everything works, how the water heater works, what change the filters, all that stuff. And at the same time, we'll do a blue tape where there's anything missing, we'll highlight it, and then we'll, paint, touch up, all that stuff. We'll have our list. We'll go through that list, make sure everything is complete to their satisfaction. And then once that is done, then we hand the keys over at closing.
Okay. And at that point, Rob, we get back into our one-step loan process where we're now shifting from our construction loan to our mortgage, right?
Yeah, and that happens without much ado. I mean, it's a mechanism of how we have the loan set up. And so once we close out and we've finished funding that loan and we say, okay, this is the balance, then it's just some paperwork on our end on the back side to where we just convert that into a mortgage. There may be some paperwork that the member would sign, just converting it into the mortgage. But the nice part, again, is they're not having to bring us new pay stubs and W-2s and bank statements and those sorts of things. It's more just a paperwork sort of thing to where we've confirmed that the property is finished. And a lot of times too, the certificate of occupancy may be issued, but the blue tape is still not completed yet. And so we always try to hold off. We want to make sure that not only is the city and state good with the condition of the property, but the members is good with it as well. And that everybody is ready to, okay, the house is finished to everybody's satisfaction. And now we're going to finalize things. And then they would start making their principal and interest payments on the new mortgage as if they had just bought it as a resale.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it sounds like at this point, the only thing I have to do as the member or the client is buy pizza and beer and convince all my friends to help move my stuff.
Get a truck.
Yeah, the one other thing that I might just piggyback, I know Rob kind of hit on it at the beginning, but there is some flexibility too. I mean, we've had several clients where they're moving from somewhere else or they have an existing home. They plan to sell it once the new home is built and want to use some of those proceeds to pay down that construction loan before it gets converted. And there's flexibility in that. I mean, that's what's so cool about this program is that they can take those extra funds before we convert it to the principal and interest payments, pay it down, we can re-amortize it. It's a quick little change in terms that they sign, and that's it. I mean, there's options there. So
So quick question, because I noticed it and I think I caught it earlier, but you mentioned shifting it to principal and interest. And you mentioned earlier that construction side was just interest payments. Am I correct in thinking it's just paying interest on that?
That's
on that
100%.
loan?
That's 100% correct. Yep. It's just the interest. So if whatever the interest rate is at the time that we book that loan times the balance, and we divide that by 12, and that's your monthly interest payment on that money that you've borrowed. And again, it changes as we continue to use that money. But that's a good way for the member to be able to track. Like they can get that email from Jaime. Jaime will say, okay, this is how much you've gone into your funds. They know what their interest rate is. They can run their own calculation and have an idea of what that interest only payment's going to be before they get the bill from us.
All right.
Yeah, they can see that online. Their online banking, they'll be able to see that loan, the balance that it's at, the payments that are due. Yeah.
So aside from the monthly check-in, they can check in on these details when and as they feel is interesting, because I'm sure there's people out there that want to log in and check this daily to see what's happened, when has things changed, what's going on, how much do I still owe?
Not as much as they're driving by the house looking at what Jordan's doing, but yeah, they are checking on the financing part as well. And we from our department and the mortgage department too, we try to have conversations, even though there may not be much that we're doing on our end because they're still building the house. We still like to have conversations every month just to check in, see how things are going, all that stuff. And then when Jaime had mentioned like they have the house to sell, that's one of the nice things about our construction program is we look at things like that. And so right now, a lot of times when people are going into these, they have another house. And so they have that payment. And we go into these deals understanding like, okay, we know that during construction, they may be a little tight on the debt to income ratio aspect. Whereas normally, if you looked at it just from a purely qualifying standpoint, Fannie Mae guidelines, they would say, well, there's no way we wouldn't approve that. That's where working with like us, we'll look at the bigger picture and go, okay, we know that right now it doesn't look great debt to income ratio wise, but we know that they're going to sell this house and they're going to apply this much towards the principal. And then we also will give them the option when the house is about finished. We lock in that interest rate right at the very beginning. And so if it takes, let's say 10 months to build the house, ideally rates have dropped in that 10 months. I know we haven't really seen that a whole lot lately, but ideally the rates have dropped. We will allow them in a lot of instances to take advantage of, if the rates have dropped, we will allow them to go ahead and what we call float down the rate to more of a market rate than, hey, I locked in at whatever the rate was and now rates are 0.5% better, but I'm stuck. We give them the best of both worlds where if rates go up, we're not going to go back and go, hey, rates have gone up now, we're going to need to renegotiate that. We're going to go ahead and honor what we said we were going to do, but give them the opportunity to float it down in some cases if we can.
Yeah,
Very good.
Point.
Jordan, I've got an interesting kind of an aside. We've gone through the entire process at this point. What are some of the more interesting custom features that you've gotten to do in construction for homes?
Yeah, I love the new houses that we're doing lately, getting more and more custom. Like I said, with the internet, Pinterest, all that, it helps. We've done houses with like an indoor sauna, gym. Trying to think, we did a cold plunge in a house last year.
Okay.
So get all the health benefits of the cold plunge, but don't go outside. Just right in the master bathroom.
I feel like there's an interesting balance to that one. It's like, I want to be in the freezing cold water, but I don't want to go outside in the middle of winter to do it.
Commitment.
Only so much cold, right? And you get out of there and you have heated floors. So you're right in your heated floors, right into your bedroom, get changed on through day. So
I did have another question for you. As far as like we were talking about spec homes versus completely custom, if I had no idea where I wanted to start and I just came to you, is this the type of thing where I'm like, I don't have a lot, I don't have any idea where I'm going? You probably have some developments that are in process or planned.
Correct.
Is that a pretty regular situation where people are coming in looking and you're just like, hey, I've got everything that you need over here. Let's get started with our planning. Here's some lots, here's some floor plans, here's what works together there.
Yeah, we have people that come to us and say, we don't know what we want, but we love what you do. Help us. So we always try to keep lots ahead of us, subdivisions ahead of us, or ideas of where we want to go, right? So then we have plans and then neighborhoods, all that we want to get into, and then take our plans or whatever, walk through it, see what you like, what you don't like, because we know what we like. I know how I live my life. I don't know how you live your life, right? But if you can walk through the house and say, you know what, I don't really like it the way this is laid out, then we can change that. And now we know what you want.
Yeah, I know part of our one of our earlier episodes, we were talking to a couple of real estate agents, and it was kind of one of those location, location, location type of a things where it's, is it the house that I'm looking for, the layout, the floor plan, or is it the neighborhood? So it's kind of an interesting sideline into this of, I mean, I could pick the lot that I want in the neighborhood that I want, and then realize that maybe the floor plan that I want doesn't work with it.
Correct.
And so a question of kind of how much am I willing to
give up?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What's the bigger need or want, right? Do I need the location or do I want this exact style of house?
Exactly. And I think that's kind of an interesting part for the custom construction game, because if you're just looking out at what's out on the market in the real estate world, you're pretty much picking from what's there. You've got to have just a couple of items that you're really focused on if you want to have an opportunity to find something. Whereas in this, you get to, pick and choose exactly what you want, or at least the majority. I'm guessing probably 80 to 90% of what you really want, if not for some people, maybe all of it.
Right. I mean, it comes down to budget too, right? So I mean, we can want everything, but at the end of the day, it comes down to what can we realistically afford.
Yeah. Like everybody's going to have to make some of those changes in the long run, most likely, because we're not all getting, 6,000 square foot homes and whatnot. My wife isn't going to get a dog kennel that can fit a couple dozen corgis and a run that works with all that. Sorry, hun. But in the long run, being able to make those choices, I think provides this as such an interesting topic to look into. I was very close to doing a custom home myself 10 years ago. My goodness. Maybe I'm getting close to doing it again soon. We'll see. Anyways, any final thoughts on this process for the people before we sign off today?
I would say the biggest thing is we get a lot of people that come in and they want to build a custom home for their very first home. And as much as I don't like to discourage anybody from doing what they want, I will be very candid with them, and I will go through the process and make sure that they understand how the process works. Because I think a lot of people don't understand how much more complicated a custom construction is versus they meet with Jordan. Jordan has a couple different floor plans and they're just kind of choosing some upgrades and things like that. That's a whole different process than starting from scratch. And so I always try to encourage people, like, maybe the custom home isn't your first home. Maybe it's down the road, because then you have an idea of what is important. Do I need the cold plunge when 5 years from now nobody's doing those, and now I have a whole room dedicated to?
I mean, you say that, but we did the ice bucket challenge.
We did, and it's still hanging on.
It's almost the same thing.
Yeah, I would just encourage people, like, if you have the thought that you want to do custom construction, I would really encourage them, even if it's not going through a full-blown pre-approval, but just to talk with one of their people over in our department, and just so we can explain the process a little bit more thoroughly, so you really have an idea of what's going to be involved before you go get all excited about it. Because you may just find, like, hey, it's not my dream house, it's not my forever house, which very rarely is it ever the forever house. I get people all the time, I'm going to live here forever. I'm like, yeah, you'll be back in 5 years. And just, I would say that's the biggest thing, is just understand the process really well and be comfortable with the process, and make sure that you have the right people that are explaining things to you, so you know what you're getting into before, before you're out buying lots and stuff like that.
I was going to say, you don't know if what you really want is what you want until you've lived in a couple of places and maybe seen what does and doesn't work.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't realize that the cold plunge is exactly the thing that you need in your home. Or quite the opposite, that it isn't. It's an indoor sauna. Anyways.
Yeah, I would say too, I mean, it goes back, make sure you're working with a builder that, is reputable and that you get along with really well. You have good communication rapport with. In the detail, making sure that budget, and there's a lot of detail in that budget with exactly what you want, everything from light fixtures to what kind of appliances. And so there's no surprises. I mean, that's one of the things that I thought I was getting this, but I, only got this. And it's like, making sure that you've got that really outlined up front. And then I just would say, our program, I think is really a cool program. The flexibility that we do have with it, we have guidelines. So in general, this is what we like to see and what we'll lend against and everything. But we have some flexibility within that, which makes it's not just black and white. Every deal is different, and we treat each deal, different when we look at it. And so I think it makes it a little bit better. And our process during construction, I think, is a really good process. I mean, I think most of those builders out there that we do work with like the process. We're fast, we're efficient with getting the money to them, and we make it smooth for the clients. So it's a good, I think, I'm biased, but I think it's a great program.
Jamie's not going to toot her own horn, but I will toot it for her. That is the feedback I get from the builders that we work with is we have probably one of the easiest and most transparent approval processes and draw processes of any other financial institution that a lot of these builders are building with. We're not beating them up. We're not taking weeks to get them their money. Our process is pretty simple, and we communicate really well. And so it's a good process all around. All right.
Jordan, any final thoughts?
If you're ready for your dream home, give us a call.
All right. Sounds good. Everybody, thank you guys for coming in. It's been illuminating as far as the process that's involved, knowing that there's so many different moving parts to this. Custom truly is the word for the episode today. Anyways, everybody, this has been Dollars and Cents, HAPO Community Credit Union's Financial Literacy Podcast. Till next time.